How are we doing today, everybody? It's Watch Display here. Thanks for joining me, and please give me a follow on Instagram at Watch Display. Today I have two watches that are so similar but yet so different, and I figured it'd be a great video to try to compare these. I'm not going to talk about packaging or anything like that. I'm not really a big box person. I don't really care about boxes. I mean, I would like the box to be of quality. I don't want it to come in cardboard or something, but it's not really a deal breaker for me in terms of the watches. So today, really quick, we have the Rolex unpolished 16618 Bluesy Submariner, looking beautiful. And the video today is going to be on two watches, the Black Bay 58 and the Monta Ocean King version 2. So what's different in the version 2 is it is actually a little bit thinner than the previous variant, and it also has like this glide lock style clasp where you can do some micro adjustments. But let's first just talk about the size. So the case size on the Tudor Black Bay 58 is 39 millimeters. So great vintage style look to it, and a great size also, which is much smaller than the standard Black Bay, which I believe was 41 millimeters. The Monta Ocean King, and just keep in mind this is version 2. I don't know a whole lot about the version 1, but this one is 40.7 millimeters. So still a great size. I'd probably just round up and say that it's closer to a 41. Let's talk about thinness. So the Black Bay 58 is 12 millimeters thin, and the Monta Ocean King is 11.9 millimeters thin, which I do know that is thinner of almost 2 millimeters than the previous first generation of this watch. So it wears very, very thin. You can see the short lug to lug also makes it nice on both watches. So let's talk about the lug to lug. The lug to lug on the Tudor Black Bay 58 is 47.5. So that is, and both of these watches have fully articulating bracelets that can go straight down. You can see how the end link doesn't stick out. It actually, the bracelet connects to the center there. So you can fully pull that down. And they both have that, which I think is great. I would say honestly the Monta probably articulates even more than the Black Bay. But I have not fully tested that. That's just more of a feeling. So the Black Bay 58 was 47.5 millimeters lug to lug, and this one, the Monta Ocean King, is 49 millimeters lug to lug. So just a little bit larger on the outcropping. You'll see they both have chamfer styled lugs. The Tudor Black Bay probably has, I wouldn't say larger lugs, but a more defined chamfer on the outside just because of the differences in finishing. But the Monta also has a chamfer on the inside of the lug, so it has like a dual chamfer, versus the Black Bay 58 has just the chamfer on the outside. Both have sign crowns. Got the Tudor Rose logo here. You have the Monta logo there. Let's talk about movements. So the 58, well, let's call it 58 going forward. The 58 has the in-house MT 5402, which is a fully in-house movement. And I'm going to say the let's say the Ocean King. The Ocean King has what they call the caliber M22, but is actually just a modified Solida. And I don't want to say just, because it does perfectly fine. I'm not going to get into the nitty-gritty in terms of time testing. That's not really what I'm trying to say here. I'm more of aesthetics and overall just comparing the two watches. So I would say that obviously the full in-house gets to the Black Bay, but of course the price point is larger too. They both have a 20 millimeter lug width, so any straps that you'd like to put on there. So you could obviously put, Monta's obviously the sister company of Everest, so you can put Everest straps on both of these watches, or any leather straps you'd like. I know a lot of people that don't like to put leather straps on dive watches, but I could care less, and especially on vintage dab watches. So if I wanted to put a really nice, probably wouldn't take this strap or this bracelet off of this watch, but if I wanted to put a strap on this watch, I don't consider it blasphemy. I mean, I'm literally just putting a leather strap on a solid gold Rolex. So weight on the bracelet. The Black Bay 58 is 143.6 grams on the bracelet, and that's with all the links. Right now, as is on my 6 3/4 inch wrist, is 135 grams. And the Ocean King is 157 grams. And on my current wrist right now, the way that I have it sized, it's 151 grams. So a little bit more heft, and you can feel it. The Ocean King does feel a little heavier. They both have sapphire crystals. You'll see that the Ocean King has more of a flat crystal, and it's pretty flat. I mean, it's a little bit elevated above the ceramic insert, but it's pretty flat. As in the Tudor Black Bay 58 has this really nice domed crystal. So you get a little bit more reflections and kind of some distortions with the Tudor versus the Ocean King is super legible. So both have excellent lume. I tested the lume last night. I hit them with a torch around 10:30, and when I woke up around 4 a.m. I believe, they were still both pretty bright. The Tudor has a green lume, and the Monta Ocean King has a blue lume. I personally prefer the look of the lume on the Monta, in my personal opinion. And the pip also glows on this Ocean King, and it's super, super bright. I will say that the hour markers are much more detailed on the Ocean King. You can see, I mean, they're just like polished beauties, and they're like this kind of beautiful gold color, and they just dance in the light, versus the Ocean Kings are definitely still really nicely done, but they're just more subtle. Let's go down to the bracelet. So the Black Bay 58 has this like rivet style, faux rivets, so it's really not a rivet bracelet, kind of showing what they used to look like, and does have screw links for removal, which are really easy to use. It has this kind of Tudor clasp. It looks really nice. It says Tudor here. It has a shield kind of look to it. And then you flip that up like flip lock, and then you have to redo that. Really nicely polished finished in here. And it's a very solid clasp. You only get 3 micro adjustments with this bracelet. And that's where I think the Ocean King definitely shines, is the bracelet. I think the bracelet articulates a lot better on the Ocean King. It feels a little bit more comfortable on my wrist, and I personally like the look of the Monta clasp much better. I really love those chamfers going down the sides with the polished Monta logo. Really easy to open, finished really nicely, and they have almost a very similar look in terms on the internal workings. But what you get on this new model is you get, I think it's about 5 increments of adjustment that are on the fly. And I'm here in Florida, and anybody knows the humidity in Florida. It can get hot, and I mean, we can have a rain shower and it's nice and cool. Your wrists will get a little thinner, and not thinner, but shrink up a little bit. And then the heat comes back out and it's hot again, and your wrist will definitely swell up towards the end of the day here. And so that having that on the fly adjustment definitely makes it much nicer, in my opinion. Now you do get the date on the Monta also. There's no date on the Tudor, which that's not a deal breaker for me, but if obviously you were really thinking about these two watches and you really wanted a date, then obviously the Monta is going to be more in your preference. But I don't care about the date. It's nice having it, but I sometimes actually prefer not having the date because it gives it a more clean dial. This one doesn't. The Black Bay 58 doesn't have crown guards, versus the Monta has crown guards. The Black Bay 58 has a aluminum insert, and the Monta Ocean King has a ceramic insert. So which watch is better for daily wear? That's a really hard question because it really depends on lifestyle. For me, I would say overall the Monta is probably a better everyday watch, just because of the bright. The blue Lume I think is just super. They're both really bright. I'm not going to say the Monta's brighter than the Tudor, but I guess the blue pops more to me, so it's a little easier to read at a glance. Like when I looked up at 4 in the morning, it was a little bit easier for me to read the Monta, and that's just that blue color pops to me. And I think that, you know, especially with my lifestyle here in Florida, being in the water a lot and with the heat, I think the Monta clasp really is a deal breaker. I mean, it's a really, really nice clasp. And the bracelet is really, really nice also. You get this really nice chamfer down the edge of the bracelet. There's tons of detail in this watch. You're getting so much more for your money, I would say, than you are in the Tudor. There's a lot of tech involved in this Monta, and it's just a more modern look too. So it comes down to, are you wanting more of a vintage vibe, or are you wanting more of a modern vibe? The modern vibe is going to be the Monta, and the more vintage vibe is going to be the 58. I will say one thing I don't like about the Black Bay 58. I'm not a huge fan of the snowflake hour hand. I really like the little small kind of diamond shape on the second hand. I think that's very sexy. I like that a lot. But the big snowflake hand is, I mean, I know it's iconic and I'm going to get a bunch of hate for it, but I don't really care for it. I think it's too bulky. Like right now it's covering up almost the whole Tudor logo, versus this one is just crisp. But which one, you know, they both could make, like if I had this one as an everyday watch, I think I'd be perfectly fine. And same with this one. But of course, I'm sure you can scratch this insert versus this one you can totally crack. So there, I mean, you can still crack, just because it's, a lot of people say, oh, I only want to get it because it's a ceramic insert. And I get it to a certain extent, but if you knock this ceramic pretty hard, like you drop it face down on some tile, and I've done that to a Christopher Ward before, and it just broke into pieces. And it didn't like shatter, but big chunks of it came out. It cracked and big chunks fell out. So ceramic can definitely break, versus this would probably get just a little ding on it. So there's both watches. Let's take off the Submariner, and I'll let you see what they both look like on my wrist real quick. I hate knocking it around like that. Good thing those aren't gold. And I am going to put the gold sub down. I always lay the gold watches differently. I'm a lot more careful with gold watches, just because I wrap a cloth around the back and I wrap a cloth in between so you don't get scratches on either. So we'll start with the Tudor Black Bay 58. So that's what it looks like on a 6.75 inch wrist. And then here is Monta. So the Monta, honestly, once you put it on, like when you're holding the two watches side by side, you can definitely see that the Tudor is a smaller watch. But when you put them on, the way that the bracelet articulates and how the case hugs the wrist, I mean, you can see that thing was sitting flat on my wrist. It definitely feels closer to a 40 when you're actually wearing the watch. I would say I would consider this closer to like a pre-ceramic Submariner versus the newer Submariners, 6 digits. I don't feel like this wears anywhere close to the size of a super case. But the lugs again are chamfered on both sides, so it does, even though the lugs are thicker, I would say definitely on this Ocean King compared to the Black Bay, the lugs appear thinner because they're dual chamfered. Chamfered always makes a lug look a little smaller versus truly just giving the full look. Like the sub, the new 6-digit subs have no chamfers inside or outside, so they just look big. The lugs just look chunky and squared off. So thanks for checking me out. I'm going to take a lot of nice shots of this on my Instagram page. So please check me out at Watch Display on Instagram, and hope you all have a great day. Cheers.